Welcome back, Niches. I'm Trina.
And I'm Melissa.
And you're watching episode 10 of Niches Get Stitches.
And today we're going to talk about crafting while traveling.
Last month we said we had nothing to tell you and that this month would be full of things to tell you. So I'm going to let Melissa take away because she's got lots to share.
And that wasn't a lie. I went from boring to never having a weekend free in T-minus 3 seconds. So I went to Denver. For anybody that watched and sent a suggestion, I really appreciate it. I happened to be there for local yarn store day.
Hey!
Yeah! So my brother took me to Fort Collins where they have a yarn store called My Sister Knits. So I dragged my brother around the store and introduced him and said, his sister knits. Corny joke.
I'm sure
but
they
I
loved
loved it. I'm sure they've heard it 1,000 times, but it made me real happy on local yarn store day. So thank you for putting up with my corny sense of humor. My sister knits. They had beautiful yarn. I got to feel some yarn that I had never been exposed to before, but I follow on Instagram. So I got to feel like all the My Farmer's Daughters yarn, which was really nice, and I got to feel Hugh Loco they carried a bunch of yarn that I had never been exposed to before. Maybe because it was like in Colorado, so different part of the country. So it was nice. I really liked it. Their yarn store though was in the carriage house behind their house. So like you walk up, yeah, you walk up and you think like somebody lives here.
This is the address. I'm very sure. And then there's like a sign that says, go around the back.
Yeah, but it was huge and it was great and cute, and all of Fort Collins was really cute. And then my brother also took me to the Stanley Hotel, which is that hotel that inspired The Shining. And we went to Rocky Mountain National Park, and for the first time ever I saw like wild turkeys.
Whoa!
Yeah, and the male, there was 3 female turkeys. Apparently he had a harem, but the male turkey was that big kind of cartoon version with the big fan in the back and I had never seen one. It was so exciting.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
The gobble gobble gobble. We stopped and gobbled at them.
Okay.
And we went to Buffalo Bill's grave and his museum. And I thanked him very much for Deadwood because it was one of my favorite HBO shows. Okay. Yeah, so I paid my respects and thanked him for his life and that he inspired Deadwood. But, fun fact, while we were there, we saw a photo of the entire Buffalo Bills kind of traveling group on the steps of the Wanamaker building in Philadelphia. So that was, you know, kind of brought together some of the Colorado and Philadelphia. Made me feel good. And then 2 weekends after I went to Denver, I flew Tim and Morgan in for Bridget's baby shower on Mother's Day. And it was a big surprise and nobody knew. And so...
Except me.
Trina knew.
Because I wasn't going to be there.
So, and I kept it a secret, which is very unlike me. I don't have a very large secret keeping ability. I can keep other people's secrets. I can never keep my secrets. But I kept it from Bridget and she was super surprised. It was a really touching moment. And same for Mommy and Daddy. Mommy had the exact same reaction as Bridget. They're definitely related. Same face, like this. It was
yeah, but the best, Melissa snapped it to me, and the best part was Bridget did the, oh, you didn't even open the invite. Tim had never even opened the email with the invite to the baby shower, so she definitely wasn't expecting him.
No, it was, yeah, that was the funniest part. So I'll talk about it more in Drop a Dime, but I also went to Maryland Sheep and Wool, and then something I'm dubbing Not Invited to Maryland Sheep and Wool. And I went and spent a weekend with my parents in North Carolina because I was working in Richmond, and it turned out that I could just go the other direction and be at my parents' house by dinner, so I did that instead.
Yeah, Richmond to me is like the halfway mark. Like once we make it to Richmond, I'm like, finally. And honestly, the traffic begins around Richmond when we're coming home, and so I think like, can we skip this town? Like, how do we get around Richmond? Is there some sort of Harry Potter magic that I can utilize to get out of here?
That's all of my catch-up, Trina.
No, that wasn't that long at all. You all know that I went to the Dominican Republic and hung out with my husband for a week. That was really nice. We didn't spend too much time hanging out. We had a lot of errands to get done for his visa and for him to be able to come here. So we did a lot of that. 2 of the days I was there, he had to work. So I actually have some books because I just sat and read on the beach all day, which was really nice. So I did that, and I managed to not get sunburned, which was a huge deal, as I told you, that was something I really wanted to avoid. So I managed to not get sunburned, which was great. And I even pulled some trash out of the ocean, like the returned Peace Corps volunteer that I am.
Oh, good job, Trina.
Yeah, so overall it was a good trip. I had a really wonderful time hanging out with Alex. So after we finished up at the medical office, we went to grab lunch at a place nearby, and his family, and this is in the capital, so not even where his family lives, his family was at the restaurant. And they were on their way out, we were on our way in. So I like grabbed them, I was like, guys, hey, it's crazy to see you here. So then we ended up getting lunch. Like, they just sat back down with us, and then his uncle and aunt live very close to where we were staying. And so they actually met up with us while we were staying in Punta Cana and just hung out. They took me to a mall that after 9 o'clock was closed, so we just like walked through an empty mall. But they thought it was special, and so I pretended that it was special. And yeah, it was really nice to see them. So that was a really fun adventure that happened. Yeah, last night I met up with a Peace Corps friend. She knew she was coming into town, but didn't let anyone know she was coming to town until the day she was here. So fortunately, my schedule was open, but we went out last night, and it was really great seeing her. And there's a couple of us that live here in DC, but we don't hang out with one another like as much as you think we would. Like, I mean, our friendships are long lasting, but we just don't hang out for no good reason other than we don't make the effort. So it was really nice seeing her because she lives in New Orleans, and I probably hadn't seen her since 2015.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw her at our friend JT's wedding, and I'm pretty sure that's the last time I saw her. We tried to figure it out, but all of our timelines were off. No one could remember exactly what year anything happened. So it might have been the rosé.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why no one can remember. And then I also went to go see Crazy Ex-Girlfriend live. I had just finished the final season, and the last episode of the final season is a recording of their live show. And I was just sitting there like happy crying for them, because I was like, I'm just like so proud that you pulled off this show. Like, there's like, I feel like there's just like so much that she really had to fight for. And so I was just like so happy for her and the whole cast. And so I went to the internet to see if there just happened to be a show coming, and I have that every other Wednesday up, and there was a show on that Wednesday in New York City. And so I called up my friend Jenna, and I was like, Jenna, I'm coming, make your couch available. And my friend Jenna is the best. I've told y'all that. She will say yes to anything. She's such a good companion. But she had never seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I'm not even sure she had ever even heard of it. So when she asked me what show I was going to, I said, oh, I'm going to go see Crazy Ex-Girlfriend live. Do you want to come? And I honestly expected her to say yes. She followed through and said yes. But then while we were there, you know, everyone's sitting next to one another and talking like, what's your favorite song? What song do you hope to hear? And so I'm in the line waiting for popcorn, and the person sitting next to her asks her those questions. And she had to be like, oh, I've never seen this show. And I tried really hard to focus and see if they were enunciating well enough for her to understand the lyrics on a first pass, and they were. And so I was like, so she said she had a really good time. And then Miss Rachel Bloom, her character has this song called Heavy Boobs. She essentially did a little strip show for us, and then did this Heavy Boobs song with like the light behind her on a white screen so we could just see her shadow. It was hilarious. It was very funny. And her in-laws were in the audience, supposedly. You know, some stuff might be for show, but her in-laws were in the audience, and she had her assistant give them eye masks, and if they tried to take off the eye masks, the assistant was supposed to blow an air horn so that the show would stop and Rachel could cover up again. So it was really fun. It was a great show. The most exciting news is I got offered a job to serve with the Foreign Service with the Department of State. So I start on July 8th, and I don't know where I'm going yet, but I should know by August. And once I know, I'll let you all know, and then Melissa and I are going to try and figure out how to do this when we're not living together. A lot of technical issues. I think that's what we're going to have.
Pray for us, y'all.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's me. That's my catch up.
Do you want to move on to Drop a Dime, Save a Dime?
Let's do it.
So this month we're going to talk about crafting while traveling, and we have a couple of things. So for the first time ever, I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool, and it rained the whole day. and I had mud up to my knees. And it was a little bit miserable. But I have to talk about some of the vendors that I met. So some of the vendors, you know, they had like yarn like this much off the mud, and they brought so much joy to that event for me. I left and I wrote 2 different emails to companies just to thank them for the way that I felt after I left their space.
Sure.
I went with one of my friends from Yarnia, and so we stopped at this booth, Wild and Woolly, which was just full of bats of wool and then free dyed locks. And the lady I went with from Yarnia, she wants to learn how to spin, and we stopped there, and that lady just wanted to teach her how to spin while she stood there.
That's awesome.
Like she was like pulling stuff off of the shelves and handing it to her and being like, no, you do it like this, it's easy, you can do it. And I like spinning straight from locks, but if you want to, you can use this batting, and on the floor and just like putting it into a ball and then putting it in my friend's hand. And she was wonderful. I loved her so much. And their stuff was really reasonably priced, and it was all pre-dyed, and they had really great dye colors. And so the color that my friend picked out was like a purpley pink. She called it unicorn poop. I felt it was accurate. But it was really just that whole shop was just full of joy and happiness, and you could really tell that person loved what they did. One of the other places that I went, and I was a little bit starstruck because I went to Make Where I Love last year, and Clara Parks read to us from her book, and she mentioned this spinnery, and the spinnery is pretty famous because it's like really old-timey. I went to Green Mountain Spinnery. I couldn't believe the level of customer service that they provided. Like, I went in the first time and I didn't buy anything. I was just like a little bit starstruck. And they were still, like, I didn't purchase anything. They were still super kind, super tell me about what you're knitting and what you're doing. And I told them that and how I knew about them, and they loved that. And they were just really nice ladies. And then I went back later and I bought a sweater quantities worth over here. But they were super nice. And then I went to Bumblebee Acre Farms tent, and they were like deep in the mud. And I had also been following them on Instagram. And the reason that I love to go to these shows or events or even different yarn stores in different cities is that I like to go and touch all their bases. And then I take notes in my head about what bases I liked of theirs, because if they run a sale, then I'll know the yarn that I like best. So I went to Bumblebee Acres. They were high on my list because they do a bunch of dyeing for like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. They do a lot of like TV movie themed yarn dyeing, which makes me happy. And we talked about Game of Thrones for 45 minutes in their shop. Like all the other people started coming to join our conversation, and it was everybody, and it was a joyful tent. Their tent was joyful. I felt super welcome. And then I have one more vendor to talk about, and that's Going Gnome. So I walked into Going Gnome's tent, and they had a Game of Thrones dragon. I'm not kidding. My arms don't even make the spread. He was taller than my arm spread, and he was like large. And then she had made all these little White Walkers with little blue eyes, and she had needle felted all of this.
Whoa.
It was like needle felting to the nth degree. Like it was so amazing. And Trina had mentioned a while back that she might like to try needle felting, and so I said that to the lady. I said, oh, my sister thinks that she wants to try this, and she talked about it on our podcast, and I told her, like, I was straight up with her. I told her we weren't famous all night. I was like, thank you to our 50 subscribers. But she sent me home with like your first needle felting project for Trina for free, and so I wanted to thank Going Gnome for that, because I know I have 50 subscribers. Thank you, every single one of you. We appreciate you.
So this is the kit that she gave Melissa. And I don't know if you can quite see the little hedgehogs that you can make. And then there's just her sticker on the back. So yeah, I'm excited to make something, you know, because I did buy the needle felting beginner's kit, but it doesn't come with any patterns, and so I was just like, I guess I just have to wing it. You know, like choose a beginner's pattern online and then make that similar, just the same exact way that I did with embroidery. But this comes pre-packaged.
It's very cute little hedgehog. I signed up again this year for Make Wear Love, so I'll be headed to Maine in October, and this is the cost-effective part of all of that. So again, I like to feel the bases to know which bases I'm gonna like when they go on sale on the internet, because that's a fair point. So the other thing is, if you buy at a festival, a lot of times they'll run like festival sales or specials. You won't pay shipping like you would if you were buying off the internet, because I almost never encounter free shipping for indie dyers.
But you do have to get all that stuff home.
In the rain. With mud up to your knees. And the day before I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool, I wasn't invited to Maryland Sheep and Wool, so the Knot House in Frederick, which is a fantastic yarn store, had a bunch of vendors show up who hadn't really been invited to Maryland Sheep and Wool, and then Magpie Fibers has a studio there, and they opened the studio, and they were the ones that intrigued me the most because they're very popular, and so I wanted to go feel all their bases.
Okay.
And so that weekend was a lot of just research and note-taking for future purchases when they go on sale.
And one of the other things that is important to consider is something like Make Wear Love, where that costs a lot up front, but all the things that you learn there in the end, if you were to take all those classes separately, would cost you more in the long run. So if that's a trip that you want to take, but you think like there's no way I could afford that, consider that if you do take those classes in a piecemeal situation, then is it piecemeal? Piecemeal. In pieces. I always say that word wrong. I also always say, let's flush this out instead of flesh this out.
Is it flush it out?
Yeah. But I always say, let's flush this out. Always. Did you just learn something?
I did just learn something. Flush it out.
Yeah.
I don't think that whole terminology lives in my world. I don't think I use it. It's not a regular use for me.
Regardless.
Yes.
Classes could be more expensive in the long run.
They'll have classes at festivals, they'll have classes, and they're onesie twosies, and I think Vogue Knitting might cost like almost $350 a class.
Wow.
And at Make Wear Love, I'm gonna be there with my favorite designers and my favorite pattern writers, people who I respect, and I think that they actually do such a good job of writing their patterns. And so that time spent with them, it's not just in the classroom. They're gonna be around for the weekend. They're gonna give mini sessions. They're gonna have like a Q&A session where I can interact with them, and that makes all that cumulative learning over the weekend. I learned so much last year. I actually can't wait to go back, because last year's made me able to develop my own pattern for Trina's sweater.
Yeah.
So it took my knitting, like, I might have been here and it brought me way up here, and maybe this year I'll end up,
with a finished sweater.
Someday Trina's gonna get a finished sweater. But if she's been picked up by the State Department though, so if she's moving to Mexico, she doesn't need it anymore. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Now, have you heard of reviews of other weekend workshops?
Yeah, so there's Vogue Knitting Live Destinations, and I've heard that those are very good. Of course, this year they decided that the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which is kind of like the big international show in Edinburgh, Scotland every year, they're going to take 2020 off. So they're not going to have it in 2020. And so everybody's now thinking that maybe we should all go to Dublin. All the knitters should descend on Dublin. But the Vogue Knitting Destinations are very good. There's cruises. Like if you're a cruise person, there are knitting cruises. There are knitting trips to Ireland. There are all kinds of knitting vacations. Knitters are crazy.
Yeah, if there's embroidery folks out there, I don't know about it.
In the beginning of my knitting career, I was a big believer in being self-taught, and I learned everything off of YouTube. All the different stitches, all the different everythings. I taught myself off of YouTube for the first 5 years that I was a knitter. And it wasn't till I took a real class at a real yarn store and how I learned about how much technique I could learn in a face-to-face classroom setting with different teachers. And it really opened my eyes, and that class and the subsequent classes have really kind of firmly settled me into my craft and made me feel very confident about anything I feel like I want to pick up and make.
And so if you were saving up for a class, then that's something that honestly we can't teach you. Budgeting is really hard for some people. The thing that I do that helps the most is I create a special account for that thing, and then every month or so I try and do the math of like how much I need to save over the course of a month for, you know, for a year if that thing is a year away. And so then I divide that amount by 12, and then that's how much I put into that account to like try and budget for it, so that I know that like I'm not touching this pot, so whatever is remaining in my main checking account, that's the money that I can use. And so it makes it a little easier to go without, you know, for me, Taco Bell every day. But if it's, you know, whatever your thing is, like you just go without that for a little less than instead having to try and pay for it all at once when you haven't saved up for it all. Like it's just danger zone.
Yeah, I couldn't afford it at all if I hadn't been saving this whole year for it. Hey Craftus, what's the class that you felt was most worthwhile?
I know Kung Fu.
I'm not sure how that's relevant, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. One of the physical things that I have for traveling and embroidering is this. It's technically a pencil case, and I saw it on Amazon. I'll link it below. It just had lots of little pockets that I thought would be great for things like scissors and loose thread. Your needles can go over here, and then it like this expands so it can hold all your stuff. And I fit all the colors that I was using for the Shuga Cain project. My thimbles in there. It was really helpful when I went to the DR that I just got to take this with me instead of any other sort of bag. And even though I did have a notions bag from Make Wear Love last year, it didn't have any organizing in it. And not being able to organize stuff really stresses me out. So I really liked this case, and I'll link it below if it's something that you're interested in. I think it comes in multiple colors. I really like it. One of the other things you can do while traveling to support local businesses is find those yarn stores. So like Melissa said, she went to My Sister Knits in Colorado, and I mean, I'm sure that was really fun. And then Melissa's also gone to embroidery shops for me, because it's not anything I've ever tried to do. That's not true. I tried to do it when I went to Portland in September, but I couldn't find one.
Okay.
And so I was just like, oh, well, that's out. Like everything I searched online was like, get your embroidered t-shirt, and I was like, that's not what I want. I want to go to an embroidery shop. And you think like Portland's one of those keep Portland weird cities.
Yeah.
So you think that they would have something, but I couldn't find one. Regardless, something like that doesn't take too much time out of your day, and it helps you support local businesses. And like Liz said, she found yarns that she had never encountered before because they probably don't make them to the East Coast at all. And so I also encourage that while you're traveling and crafting. So that's our Draft a Dime, Save a Dime. If you have any tips on how to traft, that's the new word for traveling and crafting, trafting. If you have any tips on traveling and crafting, leave them in the comments below.
Are we moving on to projects?
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to see it. It looks amazing, you
Alright,
guys.
so I finally finished this, and like honestly it did not take as long as it should have. I just kept delaying it for no good reason. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. Honestly, and it's like so much turkey stitch. Almost the whole thing is turkey stitch. It was a lot. But here is Miss Shuga Cain. The only thing I have left to do is I'm going to add some watercolor so it's not just white, because her coat was like this beautiful southwestern pattern, and so I'm really excited about the coat. And then I do have to stone her tights, as they say. I have to put silver French knots on her tights to stone them. So I got all the fringe on there. I trimmed it down today. Her hair was honestly the hardest thing, like braiding it and getting it into place. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think that Violet's gonna love it, and once I get the watercolor on there, I think it's gonna look really, really gorgeous.
You're right. Look at you. You braided her hair. It's like real. Oh,
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah, no, like I said in the last episode, like I thought turkey stitch was real complicated, but it's not. I didn't tell y'all this. I was embarrassed because I didn't do it for Betty. If you remember, I did the Riverdale stitch along, and so I did Betty and I did her ponytail, but I just put knots on all the ends and strung the strings through. I didn't do turkey stitch for Betty, and now that I know, I'm like embarrassed that I didn't do it. But it is what it is, and now I know.
It looks great.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think Violet's really gonna love it. I hope she does.
Yeah. So I don't have any finished objects. I was real busy. I started Lauren's socks, and I haven't made it very far. Lauren has very wide calves, and, and she's struggled to buy boots for a very long time, and she finally found boots, and now she needs socks that fit under them. So those are Lauren's socks, and again, I haven't even finished the cuff yet. I've been working on those for like a month. They're my in-between projects, so I kind of work on them at Yarnio. I work on them in places where I'm going to talk and knit, and I can't really focus on the lace work. I started working on the back of the purple sweater, and you can see that I have, like now I have sleeves. They're coming out to the side. And I'm almost finished the back, and once I finish the back, I'm actually going to move into Trina's sweater because the internet told me to, I thank you all for voting, the internet told me to work on the green one, but I had already started on the purple one, and I'm actually very close to finishing the back, and since that sweater's done in pieces, once it's done, and then I can work on Trina's sweater, and then they'll both be in the same place, and they'll moving along, and hopefully maybe by Make Real Love I'll have 2 sweaters.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and I could do both. So that's those are all that I've been working on, but I've made it very far in the purple sweater. Like I finished a whole skein of fingering weight yarn in that sweater, and the last time I worked on that sweater, that process took me almost 2 months to get to.
Dang.
So it's moving faster. We're getting there. I'm getting better at it. And so those are my projects.
All right, nice. All right, so we're just going to disneybound Shuga. And because this is a tribute to her Apache heritage, we're going to go with Pocahontas.
Yeah. I think it looks great. She looks fantastic. I'm blown away with Trina's talent on that one.
Thanks. Yeah, mentally it was hard to push through. Otherwise, it wasn't that hard. But mentally, it was hard to push through. I think because it just looked like so much stitch that I didn't know. And I just, like, couldn't bring myself. And then, like, her skirt, her skirt's got so many colors in it. And so I was like, how do I do that? And then the arm ones, I probably did too much. But I did 2 full strings at once. Oh. So I did 12 threads through the pattern at once. I couldn't get it through manually. I had to use like needle nose pliers to get the sewing needle through every time, and I'm sure that there are some aficionados out there that are frowning at me. So I'm sorry about it. I won't do it again. I learned my lesson. I just like didn't think because it's so dense in the picture, and I thought like, well, how can I make it dense? I'll just use all 12 strings, and I needed them to be mixed, and I didn't want to have to like do 2 rows and it be like a very defined row. So anyway, but it worked out. It's fine. It's over now. Success! All right. Let's move on to our stitchflix.
So, do we want to talk about Game of Thrones?
I think Game of Thrones has been talked about at length by multiple people, and I don't think we need to add to it. I accept the ending. It's not the ending I wanted. I can see why D&D wanted to go that way, but I mean, as everyone said, it felt like it went against everything that we've gone against. I did watch this YouTube channel that said this is what should have happened, and it was perfect. It was a really excellent ending. And something he pointed out, so like my big hang up was the battle with the Night King was only 1 episode. I was like, I don't understand, like the very first scene isn't the King's Landing. It's not Robert Baratheon. It's not Cersei. The very first scene, someone is beyond the wall and gets killed by a White Walker. And so I was like, I thought that's what the show was about. I thought the show was about the battle with the Night King. And and honestly, like, I thought Dany would fall to the Night King. Like, I thought that's what this story is about. So, Yeah. I don't think I'm saying anything that no one else has said.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
I concur with your assessment.
Yeah. I hope that all those actors find success outside of Game of Thrones and that they're not pigeonholed in the roles that we're familiar with them in. So, I don't have anything else to say. But because we both felt like they rushed through that season, we reacted the adverse way to our stitch along and delayed it again. So
I want the yarn.
I did nothing. So our Game of Thrones stitch along, we're not gonna do it again, but I'll make something eventually.
Someday with a yarn. I did buy yarn.
On the flight back from the DR to the DR, on the flight to the DR, I got to watch some movies. The first one I watched was Can You Ever Forgive Me? I really wanted to see that when it was in theaters, but it was too artsy for any of my friends to go with me.
Okay.
And then by the time I got around to going to it on my own, it was out. So I was really excited to see that, and it was good. I mean, it is, I wouldn't even call it slow, but it's a quiet movie, I'll put it that way. And then I got to see half of Wreck-It Ralph 2, because then the plane landed at like the big climax scene, so I don't know what happens. But it was so funny. One of the characters in Wreck-It Ralph has a car, and everyone's trying to steal it, and that's what the two main characters are trying to do in the game, or in the movie. But the character, she's talking, and I'm like, I am suddenly attracted to this cartoon character. Like, what is happening? Like, her voice was so sultry, and the cartoon character was like drawn really beautifully, and I was like, who is this? Who is voicing this? That I'm like, hello, lady cartoon character that I should have no business being attracted to. And then I went and looked at the cast, and it was Gal Gadot, and I was like, that makes sense. That makes sense. I would be audibly attracted to Gal Gadot, so I felt no shame in that. And then I watched season 14 of Supernatural. You may have seen on the internet that they are finally ending that show, so I was glad to catch up. Though, I'll tell you, I am over their demons and angels and God storyline. I'm over it. If they're going to keep up with that, then I'm excited to end it, honestly. But I'll miss both those characters, both Sam and Dean. They're very funny. Like, when you watch the show and you know all the inside jokes, you're like, this is a funny show. So I also watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I said that already. I've been watching this YouTube show called Hot Ones, where they interview celebrities while the celebrities eat increasingly hot wings. So they start pretty mild at like Tabasco sauce, and then they go to like Scoville, like the hottest Scoville sauce you can get. And it's been very funny. Like some celebrities that you wouldn't expect like handle it with pure ease, and then others are like losing their dang on minds. It's great. I watched Crazy Rich Asians, and so I messed up personally. I've said before that I prefer to watch the movie first than the book, but I read the book before I got a chance to watch the movie. The reason I don't like to watch the movies after is because then I think to myself, oh, they cut this part, they cut this part. You know, the same reason that people prefer to read the book first, because they think they'll enjoy it more. But I want to enjoy the movie on its own, because the same, you know, a lot of people work hard on those movies. Anyway, so the movie was fine, but the part that got me was Constance Wu, who is like she's the main character, and she's the one with the most acting experience of the whole cast, except for the woman who plays Eleanor Young. But she was not great. Like,
really?
her acting was not great. At one point, she learns that she's, you know, they're in their 30s, the two characters, and I mean, she kind of reacts this way also in the book, but the way that Constance Wu portrayed it, I was just like, what is happening? Rachel and Nick are dating. They're in their 30s. Rachel finds out that when Nick was like 15 or so, he had a threesome, and she meets one of the girls who was in the threesome, and she just like gets in Nick's face about it, and is like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. It's like 15 years ago.
Like,
why would I tell you? It's not important. And she's just like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. She's like flopping her hands around, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, and like the character Rachel is like a college professor. Like, she's got confidence. So there's no reason for her character to be behaving like that. Like if you want to be upset, you can be upset, but not like flop your hands around, be like, I can't tell me. I'm like so mad at you right now. It's just like, what? So, but it was fun. It was definitely really cool to see that side of Singapore. I mean, I don't have any context for Singapore, so it was really cool seeing Singapore portrayed that way. I mean, you know, just imagining what it would be like to be literally crazy rich. So, I also watched Black Klansman. That was really good.
Oh.
Yeah, it's on HBO right now. I didn't have any expectations for it other than it's gonna be good, and it was. It was really, really good. I really liked that story. And I also went to see Aladdin. And honestly, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you compare it, obviously there's going to have flaws. But one of the things that helped ease my mind about it is early on Will Smith put out a tweet that said, I know Genie don't have feet, but you left big shoes to fill, Robin. And so, like, he was just trying to, you know, he's just trying to do his best to, like, memorialize Robin, but also put his own spin on it. And I thought he did a good job. We went to a 4K or a 4D theater, so it was 3D, and then you sat in seats that like moved around, wind blew in your face, water blew in your face. At one point we were walking through a bazaar, and we could smell cardamom. When Aladdin gets flung to the far ends of the earth, it started to snow in the theater. It was a lot of fun, and so we got to feel like we were riding on a magic carpet, which is what I wanted, because the tickets cost twice the amount of normal tickets. But it was definitely worth the experience. I think I would do it again for you know, movies that you think are gonna have like a good action scene that you want to be a part of. I thought the singing was mostly okay. They have a new song for Jasmine. It's one song with a reprise. But the song was good, and honestly, my biggest complaint is Aladdin's probably my favorite soundtrack. If it's not Tarzan. It's hard to decide. They're both great.
Really? I always think it's Hercules for you.
Hercules is also a good one. It's hard to choose, but Aladdin's gonna be like the first one I ever saw in the theaters, and so it's gonna hold a place in my heart. Regardless, my only complaint, honestly, like, without comparing it to the cartoon, is there was a lot of speak singing.
I'm not into that.
No, like if you're gonna do a musical, sing the words. So. Sing it. Aladdin was good, honestly. Just don't go in expecting the cartoon. I told you that I got to read a bunch of books, which was nice. Oh, yeah. But I'll run through those because I reviewed them on Goodreads. So I read Calypso by David Sedaris. Funny. Some parts are funny, but a lot of the stories are like also about him aging, which I don't relate to anymore. Yeah, because like when I read the first books, like we were the same age, but now because he had already published them, and then I got them, but now he's older, and so anyway, yeah, a lot of stories are about him getting older, but it was still good, don't get me wrong. I read A Simple Favor by Darcy Bell. I'd wanted to see the movie, and then I didn't get the chance to see the movie, but the library before I left was like, hey, here are some books you might be interested in, and A Simple Favor was one of them, and so I quickly downloaded 4 or 5 books, and I read that one, and it made me mad. I did not care for the switcheroo. It was lazy writing, I think. I read The Outsider by Stephen King. That was good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that... It felt like a Supernatural episode, honestly. I'm not going to go into more in case of spoilers, but it felt like a Supernatural episode. I liked it. I also read Crazy Rich Asians while I was overseas, and that was good. It's so good that I'm reading the other 2 now.
I'm still really lazy about the books. I still just have the one that I listen to at night, but you know, it's 100 hours. It'll take me a while. I'll be talking about Echo in the... I will not be able to like talk about the end of Echo in the Bone, I think, till the end of the summer. Although summer is my reading season. It's the season because television stops and I go to the beach and lots of reading, so I hope to increase my reading over the summer.
No judgment from me.
Yeah, so I did watch a lot of TV though. I went to Denver, and my brother, I was in Denver the weekend of Avengers Endgame coming out, and my brother talked to me and told me how very many movies I had to watch in order to be ready to watch Endgame. But then he gave me a shortcut. So we watched Avengers Infinity Wars, and Tim would pause the movie and give me backstory for everything I needed to know for Endgame. So I got a Cliff Notes. And again, so that was really great. And then my brother also told me that they really liked She-Ra. And I was like, I know She-Ra. I grew up on She-Ra. What do you mean She-Ra? Did they publish all the episodes on Netflix? No, they made a new one. It's fantastic. It brings me back to my childhood. However, funny story, these are one of those moments that makes you feel very old. My brother's girlfriend didn't know that there was an original She-Ra. She thought this was the original She-Ra. She wasn't old enough because she's 27, 26. So I pulled it up on YouTube and showed it to her. But the new She-Ra is by DreamWorks, and I really enjoy DreamWorks cartoons on Netflix, and so it was actually really good. And so was Carmen Sandiego, if you like cartoons, which I do. I watched Gentleman Jack. First off, I can't tell. So the end song of Gentleman Jack is like a song that tells this whole story about this lady, Gentleman Jack. And I can't tell if the show is based on the song or the song was I have to do more Googling. I have not Googled enough of it. But it's really great. It's about a Victorian era woman who is like the landowner. She did inherit the property. She does run the property. And she's a lesbian, and how hard, like, and she's like staunch. Like she wants to be married. She thinks that it's honorable in the eyes of God. It's very well done, honestly. I thought it was very good. I enjoy it a lot. But I was a huge fan. So it's Victorian era, the L Word, and I really loved the L Word too. I watched, obviously, Game of Thrones, and then I watched Lucifer, which, you know, you all know I love cop shows, but this is cop shows and the devil is the cop, and it's it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And there's a female version of God in the show, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate a female version of God.
Yeah. It's hilarious. It's very funny. And then also, you know, episodic, so good for me to watch while I'm knitting. So that's those are all my Stitch Flicks. I again really enjoyed the cartoons. Just
yeah, I've watched Carmen Sandiego. I think I mentioned it on here. It's good.
Yeah. For
it being a kid show.
Yeah.
So, well, then let's move on to our Stitch Along. Good news, guys. We don't have one. Take a break.
We're taking a summer break.
Yeah. I mean, no one's participated yet anyway. So maybe you've just been on summer break this whole time and we just didn't understand that. So we're going to follow your suit and we're not going to do anything either. Maybe in July we'll change our minds, but for June, don't worry about a Stitch Along. Tag us in whatever you are making that has nothing to do with us.
We just like to see your work.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. We are starting to actually get followers. I'm seeing a lot of activity. We're getting close to 100 on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're 49 subscribers on the vlog. So I'm thinking about a giveaway in our near future to celebrate how far we've come in the last 10 episodes. I know it's small in the big world of the internet, but to us it means a lot.
Yeah, you know, because I mean, this is a very roots-based situation. We don't have any help. It's just us, and we're just figuring out as we go. So we appreciate y'all sticking with us.
Let us know in the comments anything you'd like to see in future episodes. We love to hear from you because we're running out of ideas for Drop a Dime, Save a Dime.
Yeah, we're not gonna have any. If you don't let us know what ways you want to think about saving money. We'll come up with something, but it'll be far-fetched like today's was.
Thank you for watching and joining us for episode 10. We've come a long way since the beginning.
Yeah, so we'll see you next time. Stay sharp, niches.
And don't be a prick.